So most people see the open houses, the listing photos, the home tours, or they see what those reality shows glamorize realtors and what our lifestyle actually is.
Yes, what you guys don't see, negotiations, financial issues, inspector discrepancies, legal paperwork, emotional family decisions, and so much more. The bottom line is that real estate is more than just showing houses, and exactly what you said, it's more than what those HGTV shows, although they're great, they don't showcase everything. Those are mostly about the renovations and not kind of like that nitty-gritty that get the transaction closed.
Exactly. The reality is deals do fall apart. Some real estate transactions are very complicated and some go really smoothly, right?
The first step to any of that is really the representation paperwork. So in order for us to get started, before we share any stories or deep dive into anything like that, that's the first step. It's centered around due diligence and legal requirements, a representation agreement. So in order for us to properly do our jobs, this needs to be in place so that we can actually represent you and protect your best interests. Depending on the transaction, this can range from anything from verifying that you have enough funds for a realistic pathway for a purchase to reviewing your mortgage statement to ensure that you have enough funds to close. When we're working with buyers specifically, since we're kind of in a buyer's market, we could probably dive into that a bit more. You want to start talking about what it's like to work with buyers and what those first steps are like after they get that representation agreement signed?
Yeah, it's important to know that everything doesn't look the same for every buyer that you come in contact with. It's important to work with a real estate agent that really customizes things specifically to you, right? So for example, if we're working with a buyer who is going into a neighborhood or a new city or town that they're very unfamiliar with, what I love that we do is something called a neighborhood tour. So what's a neighborhood tour? So a neighborhood tour is one of those features that I love, and we take our buyers out into the neighborhood after we find out exactly what it is that you're looking for. So for example, if schools are a priority for you and you want your children in a top ranking school in Markham or in Pickering, we're going to look at those school zones and find what houses are within your parameters to get that top ranking school. Or if it's important for you to be in a neighborhood that has a great church, or you want to be in a neighborhood that has a lot of children, or that you could get a block party and a barbecue, then what we do is we take you out, we drive you around into those neighborhoods, and we usually book a couple of homes so you can see if I'm in the top ranking school district, this is one or two houses that I can get, right? So you can see the difference. So I think as an agent, it's very important to make sure that you're sending properties specific to your clients and not just inundating them with a lot of homes that aren't going to work at all, right? Another thing that we do for a lot of our buyers that it's beneficial for you is that we preview homes before you even go out and see it. Because a lot of time pictures lie. When you go and you see it on MLS and Realtor.com, and then you go in person, you think it's like catfished, essentially, for what you're actually seeing. So I love that we do that added, level of care to preview properties before you go yourself, right?
Yeah, especially since no two areas are alike, right? Like we've gone into places like, oh my gosh, Belleville and Quinte West. Mm-hmm. And even just between those two, like even though they're kind of seen as like a very similar area, just in between those two areas, very, very different demographic, very, very different style of homes. We've walked into homes that were, noted as turnkey. That's our favorite. Yeah. And then you walk in and exactly what she said, it's a bit of a catfish. There's a smell, there's some textures, outside of what we were expecting, and the home is just not ready, or at least not turnkey ready by our standards or for our client standards. And ultimately what we do is once we do find those homes that kind of fit your criteria, it's our job to build rapport with the agents.
Yes.
Right? That's kind of the part that you don't get to see or even really hear about. We want the full story. And the full story is definitely not in the listing at all. Anything that they're able to legally disclose to us, we get them to share because sometimes it's not a good fit. Even though a home seems like a good fit, maybe the terms are unreasonable, maybe the price is unreasonable, maybe the closing, there's just so many things that could be unreasonable and not, what you're looking for as a client. Mm-hmm. And part of how we're able to get to your needs and determine your needs is knowing our client. That is a FinTrack requirement. So KYC kind of has two sides. From a FinTrack perspective, it is knowing who you are, how much money you make, where the funds are coming from, and stuff like that. But from a building rapport and just really knowing your client from a sales standpoint, it's getting in touch with what it is you're looking for, as Anita was highlighting before. Part of the reason why we want to make sure that we're doing KYC on both sides, especially when it comes to FinTrack, is because we need to know what you qualify for from a budget perspective. I'm going to ask a question and I want you to answer. Does it make sense to show you homes that are listed at $1.3 million if you are only approved for $975,000?
No.
Thank you, right? So that's the main reason. We don't want you to fall in love with a home and, not be able to qualify for it. And sometimes, there's a lot of information online. Buyers kind of do this to themselves a little bit, unfortunately, where they'll be scrolling through homes on Realtor.ca or whatever, and then they'll send them to us, in very, very early stages of communication and say, hey, I want to go see this home. If there's no pre-approval to support that you can qualify for that home, we are not going to be able to take you out to that home.
Yeah.
That's just the bottom line. We can't skip steps. You need a pre-approval, and if for whatever reason you can't get one or you don't have one or you're not sure what to do, then we'll help you out with that.
Yeah. And to kind of highlight on that, that is the very first step for you as a buyer. You'll find your agent that you want to work with, and then from there you have to get pre-approved, right? That's a very, very first step. A lot of times we have in our mind, we're making six figures or we're making $80,000, so we should qualify for this. But in reality, maybe you could qualify for more than what you thought it was, or maybe you qualify for less. So that is the very first step that you have to do. We do not take you out to see any homes until you get that pre-approval. It's so crucial, right? As agents and, both Camille and I, we like to make sure that we're always negotiating with a position of strength. And in order to negotiate in your best interest and be in that position of strength, we have to know the parameters of it. What does that number look like? So that helps us secure you your home at the end of the day.